Part 2, The Reckoning, 2,000 words. The students' resistance. Prisoners become problems. Earth's response. The war machine awakens the hidden fleet. Humanity's true power. The rescue mission Operation Thunderstrike. The battle. When predators meet apex predators. The turning point. Students' inside knowledge. The New Order. Humanity's place in the galaxy. Part 1, The Taking. The binary suns of Proxima Centauri painted strange shadows across the observation deck of Research Station Harmony. 10 of Earth's most promising graduate students worked in focused silence, their fingers dancing across holographic displays as they cataloged the bizarre microorganisms found in the system's asteroid belt. They had been here for 3 months, part of humanity's ambitious deep space education program. Marcus Rodriguez, a 24-year-old biochemist from Mexico City, squinted at his microscope feed. The organisms he studied defied conventional biology, existing in the vacuum of space without any protective shell. His research partner, Yuki Tanaka from Tokyo, documented each discovery with meticulous care. She had already identified 17 new compounds that could revolutionize medicine back on Earth. The team leader, Alexandra Lex Petrov, monitored their progress from her station. At 26, she was the oldest of the group, selected not just for her expertise in xenobiology, but for her natural ability to keep the diverse team working in harmony. The others included twins Chen Wei and Chen Lin from Beijing, theoretical physicist Amara Okonkwo from Lagos, engineer Dmitry Volkov from Moscow, mathematician Priya Sharma from Mumbai, computer scientist Omar Hassan from Cairo, and linguist Isabella Costa from São Paulo. They were humanity's best and brightest, sent to the edges of known space not as explorers or soldiers, but as students seeking knowledge. The university consortium that funded their mission believed that young minds, unencumbered by decades of conventional thinking, might unlock secrets that older scientists would overlook. The station's proximity alarm shattered the peaceful atmosphere. Lex immediately pulled up the sensor data, her heart racing as she saw the readings. 3 massive vessels had appeared from nowhere, their hulls rippling with an energy signature that shouldn't exist according to human physics. "Everyone, stay calm," Lex commanded, though her own voice trembled slightly. "Marcus, send a standard greeting on all frequencies. Yuki, start backing up all our research to the emergency beacon." The ships were beautiful in a terrifying way. Their surfaces seemed to flow like liquid mercury, constantly shifting and reshaping. They were each the size of a small city, dwarfing the human research station. As they approached, the students could see strange symbols pulsing along their hulls in colors that hurt to look at directly. A voice suddenly filled the station, not through the communication systems, but directly into their minds. It was cold, ancient, and utterly alien. "Primitive biologicals, you have been selected for assessment by the hegemony of eternal order. Your compliance is not required, but resistance will result in termination." Before anyone could respond, the station lurched violently. Through the viewports, they could see tendrils of energy wrapping around their home, pulling it toward the largest ship's opening maw. The artificial gravity failed, sending equipment and personal items floating through the air. "Emergency Protocol 7. Lex shouted, grabbing onto a secured workstation. Everyone to the emergency suits. But it was too late. A strange blue light flooded the station, and the students found themselves unable to move. It wasn't paralysis exactly. More like time itself had thickened around them, turning every movement into an exhausting struggle against invisible molasses. One by one, they were pulled through the station's walls as if the metal and composite materials were nothing more than mist. The transportation process was disorienting, reality blurring and reforming repeatedly, until they found themselves standing in a vast chamber, aboard the alien vessel. The beings that greeted them were nightmarish amalgamations of organic and mechanical parts. They stood 3 meters tall, their bodies covered in scales that shifted between states of matter, sometimes solid, sometimes gaseous. Their faces, if they could be called faces, were collections of sensory organs arranged in patterns that violated human understanding of symmetry. "You represent the apex of your species' intellectual development," the lead being spoke, its voice now audible but still wrong somehow, as if it was being translated from concepts rather than words. "The hegemony requires understanding of your kind before we proceed with integration." "Integration?" Lex stepped forward, fighting every instinct that told her to run. "We're peaceful researchers. We have no authority to speak for Earth. The alien's head tilted at an impossible angle. Authority is irrelevant. You are samples. Through you, we will understand human potential and determine your species' role in the hegemony's eternal order. They were separated despite their protests. Each student pulled into individual containment cells that seemed to exist in their own pocket dimensions. The walls showed them impossible geometries, spaces that folded in on themselves, corridors that led everywhere and nowhere simultaneously. Marcus found himself in a room where gravity flowed in multiple directions at once. He could walk on the walls and ceiling as easily as the floor, though his human brain struggled to process the experience. Through what might have been a window, he saw stars being born and dying in accelerated time, entire galaxies spinning like pinwheels. Yuki's cell subjected her to different atmospheric compositions every few hours, testing her biological adaptability. The aliens seemed fascinated by humanity's relatively fragile physiology, making notes in their impossible script each time she struggled to breathe. Back on Earth, the emergency beacon that Yuki had activated reached Luna Command exactly 18 hours after the abduction. The message was brief but clear. Unknown hostile entities have captured Harmony Station. 10 souls aboard. Coordinates follow. General Catherine Morrison read the report with growing anger. She had argued against sending civilians so far from Earth's protection, but the Science Council had overruled her. Now 10 of their young people were in alien hands, and humanity had no idea who had taken them or why. The situation escalated 12 hours later, when every communication device on Earth, from quantum computers to analog radios, activated simultaneously. The message that came through was delivered in perfect, if oddly structured human languages. Species designation: human. Your offspring have been collected for evaluation. Under Hegemony Protocol 7, your primitive civilization has violated the boundaries of your designated reservation by developing faster-than-light travel without authorization. You will cease all interstellar activity immediately and await judgment. Compliance will result in merciful integration. Resistance will result in species termination. You have one rotation of your planet to respond. The reaction across Earth was immediate and violent. Protests erupted in every major city. Parents of the captured students appeared on every news channel, pleading for their children's return. World leaders held emergency sessions, debating responses that ranged from immediate surrender to nuclear retaliation. But in the depths of Cheyenne Mountain, in chambers that didn't exist on any official record, a different conversation was taking place. General Morrison stood before the Joint Chiefs and the leaders of Earth's Shadow Defense Network. "Ladies and gentlemen," she began, her voice carrying the weight of humanity's hidden strength. "For 70 years we've known this day might come. Ever since we detected the first alien signals, we've been preparing. Project Prometheus is fully operational." She gestured to the holographic display showing Earth's true military might. Not the 40 ships that public records acknowledged, but the 400 vessels hidden in the outer system, built in secret facilities on asteroids and moons. Ships that incorporated reverse-engineered technology from the crashed vessel, found in Siberia in 2089, the one that had taught humanity that we were not alone and not safe. The hegemony wants to know what humans are capable of. Morrison's smile was sharp as a blade. "Then let's show them what happens when you threaten our children." The War Council voted unanimously. Earth's response to the hegemony would not be surrender. It would not be negotiation. It would be a demonstration of why humanity, despite being relatively new to the galactic stage, had survived every challenge their cruel universe had thrown at them. They were about to learn why humans, who formed pack bonds with anything and valued individual lives above cold logic, were the most dangerous species in the galaxy when provoked. The Reckoning. While Earth mobilized its hidden might, the 10 students aboard the hegemony vessel were discovering something crucial about their captors. The aliens, for all their advanced technology and cold logic, had made a fundamental miscalculation about human nature. Chen Wei and Chen Lin, despite being in separate cells, had found a way to communicate. The twins had always shared an unusual connection, what their mother called quantum entanglement of the heart. Now, under the stress of captivity, that connection had somehow strengthened. They could sense each other's thoughts across the impossible spaces of the ship. Through careful observation, they realized the hegemony's technology was based on rigid mathematical principles. Every system followed predictable patterns, beautiful in their complexity but utterly inflexible. The aliens couldn't conceive of acting outside their established parameters. Amara Okonkwo made a different discovery. The pocket dimension of her cell responded to strong emotions in ways the hegemony hadn't anticipated. When she focused her anger, the walls flickered. When she projected hope, small gaps appeared in the energy barriers. The aliens had built their prison for logical beings, not for creatures who could weaponize their feelings. In his cell, Dmitry Volkov had taken apart everything he could touch, using his fingernails and teeth when necessary. The hegemony had removed all tools, but they hadn't considered that to a human engineer everything was a potential tool. He fashioned a crude but functional transmitter from the bioluminescent panels and his own neural implant, a standard device all humans received at birth for health monitoring. Meanwhile, Omar Hassan was doing what he did best, learning the hegemony's computer systems. The aliens had given him access to basic educational materials about their civilization, assuming a primitive species couldn't understand their advanced concepts. They didn't realize that human hackers had been breaking into systems they shouldn't understand for over a century. Omar's brain worked differently than the hegemony expected, finding patterns in chaos, creating connections where none should exist. Back on Earth, Admiral Chen Zhao stood on the bridge of humanity's flagship, the EDS Vengeance hidden behind Neptune's magnetic field. Around him, 400 ships of humanity's true fleet powered up systems that had been dormant for decades. These weren't the crude vessels the public knew about. These were predators built with stolen knowledge and human innovation. "All ships report ready, Admiral," his executive officer reported. "Project Prometheus weapons are online." Prometheus weapons. Humanity's answer to alien energy shields and exotic matter hulls. They had discovered that while aliens relied on complex energy fields for protection, nothing in the universe could withstand the simple, brutal application of antimatter wrapped in gravitational shells. Humans had weaponized black holes, turned dark matter into ammunition, and figured out how to fire pieces of collapsed stars at significant fractions of light speed. "Send the response," Admiral Zhao commanded. The message that reached the hegemony ship was simple. "We are coming for our children. Surrender them now or face extinction." The hegemony's response was predictable. They sent 3 more ships to Earth's system, confident that their overwhelming technology would cow the primitive humans into submission. They emerged from hyperspace near Mars, their sensors immediately detecting Earth's public fleet of 40 ships moving to intercept. What they didn't detect were the 400 ships that had been waiting, hidden in the quantum foam of space itself. Another impossible thing that humans had figured out through sheer stubborn refusal to accept limitations. The battle began at 1432, Earth Standard Time. The hegemony ships opened fire with weapons that turned matter into energy, beams that could slice through mountains like butter. Earth's public fleet took the hits, their ablative armor absorbing and dispersing the energy in ways that made the hegemony pause. These primitives shouldn't have such technology. Then the hidden fleet struck. 400 ships appeared from nowhere, firing weapons that violated the laws of physics as the hegemony understood them. Miniature black holes punched through shields like they didn't exist. Antimatter torpedoes turned entire sections of the alien ships into expanding clouds of gamma radiation. Gravitational weapons twisted space itself, creating pockets where time moved differently, aging parts of the hegemony vessels millions of years in seconds. But the real surprise came from the captured students. Omar Hassan had successfully infiltrated the hegemony's network and transmitted his findings to Dmitry's improvised communicator. Together, they had discovered the critical weakness in hegemony technology. It required conscious observation to function. The aliens' entire civilization was based on a quantum mechanical principle that reality needed witnesses. Blind spots in their perception became actual vulnerabilities in their defenses. Isabella Costa, the linguist, had decoded enough of the hegemony's language to understand their command structure. She realized that the aliens communicated through quantum entanglement. But their rigid hierarchy meant that if you disrupted the command node, the entire system would freeze while waiting for orders that couldn't come. Priya Sharma had solved the mathematical equation that governed the pocket dimensions of their cells. She found that by introducing a simple paradox, a mathematical impossibility that human minds could accept, but the hegemonies couldn't, she could cause the cells to collapse back into normal space. When Earth's fleet attacked, the students struck from within. Priya's paradox shattered their cells. Amara's emotional manipulation turned the ship's own systems against it. The twins, working in perfect synchronization, physically fought their way through guards who couldn't comprehend how two beings could move as one. Lex led her team through corridors that shifted and changed, following Omar's transmitted map of the ship's blind spots. They weren't trying to escape, they were heading for the command center. These weren't helpless prisoners, they were humans, and humans had been turning desperate situations into victories since they first came down from the trees. The hegemony commander, a being that had lived for 10,000 years and conquered dozens of species, faced something unprecedented. The primitive humans weren't just fighting back, they were winning. Their ships used weapons that shouldn't exist. Their captured young ones had turned from specimens into saboteurs. And most impossibly, they seemed to get stronger the more desperate the situation became. How? The commander asked as Lex and her team burst into the command center. You are primitives. Your technology is centuries behind ours. Your bodies are fragile. Your minds are clouded by emotion. Lex smiled, blood running from a cut on her forehead, her emergency suit torn in multiple places. That's what you never understood. We're not primitive, we're adaptable. We're not fragile, we're resilient. And our emotions? They're not a weakness. They're what make us fight harder when you threaten the people we love. The battle in space had turned into a rout. The hegemony ships, designed to fight logical battles against predictable enemies, couldn't adapt to human chaos. Earth's fleet attacked from impossible angles, used tactics that no sane species would consider, and kept fighting even when damaged beyond what should have been survivable. Admiral Zhao's voice echoed across the quantum communication network. All ships, execute Operation Ragnarok. This was humanity's ultimate statement. Every ship fired simultaneously, not at the hegemony vessels, but at specific coordinates in space. The weapons weren't meant to destroy, they were meant to demonstrate. 400 miniature stars bloomed in the darkness, arranging themselves in a pattern that every spacefaring civilization would recognize. The mathematical proof that humans had mastered the fundamental forces of the universe. The message was clear. Humanity could have destroyed the hegemony ships entirely, but they chose precision over annihilation. They chose to rescue rather than revenge, but make no mistake, they could end any civilization that threatened their own. The hegemony commander looked at the human students who had taken control of its ship, at the fleet that had appeared from nowhere, at the stars that spelled out humanity's capability in the void. For the first time in its ancient existence, it felt something its species had bred out millennia ago. Fear. Terms, it transmitted. The hegemony offers terms. Return our people, Admiral Zhao responded. Leave our space, and spread the word to every civilization in the galaxy. Humanity protects its own. The aftermath was swift. The students were returned to Earth as heroes. The hegemony retreated, not just from human space, but from the entire sector. Word spread through quantum networks and ancient communication channels that a new player had entered the galactic stage. Not a species that conquered through superior technology or cold logic, but one that fought with determination, creativity, and an absolutely unreasonable refusal to give up. Within a year, 3 different civilizations had requested diplomatic relations with Earth. They wanted to understand these humans who had done the impossible, who had faced the hegemony and won not through ancient wisdom or evolved biology, but through sheer stubborn human will. The captured students returned to their research, but now with military escorts and the respect of the galaxy. Their experience had taught them and humanity a valuable lesson. The universe was dangerous, filled with civilizations that saw compassion as weakness and diversity as chaos, but it had also taught the universe about humanity. That humans were the species that packed bonded with cleaning robots, that would sacrifice themselves for strangers, that would cross the galaxy to rescue 10 students not because it was logical, but because it was right. The hegemony had captured 10 humans and threatened Earth. In response, humanity had shown the galaxy why, despite being young and relatively primitive, they were perhaps the most dangerous species in existence, not because they were the strongest or the smartest, but because they were the only species crazy enough to declare war on a superior civilization over 10 students, and even crazier, to win.